All right. Well, hi, everyone. Recording is started. Thank you for joining today's 2015 ICAP Supervisor Orientation. Should last until about 11:30 this morning, hopefully a little bit less, but I wanted to make sure I had enough time to cover some of the changes that I have going on for next year. So really the purpose of this meeting and this orientation is to give you the necessary knowledge and tools to be successful as a supervisor in managing your ICAP members during the 2015-16 program year. So we're going to go over a lot of expectations, a lot about processes and that sort of thing. I'm not going to go super heavy on some of the nitty-gritty policy and those sorts of things, but I will point to resources and paperwork and documentation, those sorts of things, and show you where those things are. And certainly, as you move through the program year, feel free to use the website as a great resource. Use me as a great resource. Feel free to reach out to each other and that sort of thing. So. But first, I wanted to just do quick introductions with everyone. And I'll go first, and then I'll unmute the lines, and I'll just kind of go down the list of participants that I have here. I am Justin Ellis with Iowa Campus Compact. I'm our program coordinator with the Iowa College AmeriCorps program. And one of the big accomplishments that I'm hoping to get out of the 2015-16 program year, other than writing the grant for 2016 through 19, because we're recompeting in this fall, is to do a lot more communication with members and also a lot more external communication on the results of our performance measures, as well as the results from the pre-post evaluation survey, which I'll talk about later, just in a moment later in this orientation. So I'm going to unmute the lines here, and I'll just go down the list. Up first, I have Jess, if you wouldn't mind talking.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jessica Klein-Danovelo. I work here at Central College in the Center for Community-Based Learning. I have Jordan Legner, our AmeriCorps Vista, who's sitting in with us this morning. Hi.
Hi, Jordan. So what's maybe a goal that you have at Central that you're hoping to accomplish with your ICAP members during this next program year?
Here at Central, we're actually looking to expand the program, working with a couple of different departments, working particularly with education and with our health sciences. So hoping for a good group this year.
Great. Thanks for sharing. And up next, there's Karen. Hi, Karen. Maybe she's having audio problems. All right, I'm going to move next to Lauren.
Hi, I'm Lauren Fukuda, Director of Service Learning at Iowa Western Community College. Last year was our first year kind of re-implementing the program since I've been here. Learned a lot. We're tweaking it a little in terms of how we actually utilize our AmeriCorps members. But yeah, looking forward to hopefully getting a few more to complete. That was a challenge for us last year, so that's one of our big focuses. Have some things in place in terms of a little more regular recognition throughout the year, but yeah.
Great. Thanks for sharing. And Maggie?
Sure, this is Maggie Baker from Loras College. I'm the Service Learning Coordinator here, and boy, a goal, just making sure that the students are perhaps taking a little bit more responsibility with their own training and keeping track of the trainings and making sure themselves that they have met those goals by the end of their term.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Maggie. Karen, were you able to hop on? Okay, if not, just please share something in the chat box, just a goal that you're hoping to get out of your ICAP members in the 2015-16 year. So I'm going to now put everyone on mute, and I will just continue on with the presentation. All right. So let's dive back into this. So I wanted to start off with just reminders for the current program year. For those of you who have members who are still serving and you need to complete just some of these tasks, these are just friendly reminders that the end of term impact report or the final impact report is due October 9th. I changed that from 10/24, which was listed on the ICAP website. Just because I had some dates mixed up on when my report is due, which is on the 26th. I wanted to just make sure that there's enough time in between there. So you can go onto the ICAP website and just under the reports tab and hit on the final impact report and submit that directly to me. And I'll talk a little bit more about exactly where that is on the website here in a little bit. And then finally, program closeout. The program officially ends 10/31 of this year, so no one can serve beyond the end of October. And I'm required to exit everyone on the 30th of November, regardless of if I've received any of their paperwork. So please keep that in mind if you have members who are serving through the end of October, that I do need to receive their paperwork no later than that date, 11/30 of 15. And if I don't receive their paperwork, unfortunately, even if they complete all the requirements, they won't receive their education award. So. And this is a helpful tool that I'm going to use throughout this training, which is just a review, preview, and big view. So just quick review of what I just talked about. The final impact reports are due by October 9th, and all members must be exited by November 30th. Up next is next year's timeline, and then big view. The final impact reports are the results from that are submitted directly to CNCS and ICVS, so the commission as well as AmeriCorps, and they do a great job of demonstrating our program success, and they really help me to just document how great a job you're all doing, and really let that shine through those reports. So this is the timeline that I've put together for the program year. There really haven't been many changes on this. All of the paperwork that that you need for the 2015-16 program year is available on the ICAP website, and I'll show you where that is in a bit. Members start their first day of service, or can start their first day of service, effective September 1st of this year. There's some stuff on here about the pre-survey collection. This one right here that says pre-survey collection ends, that should actually be October 31st, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Then midterm impact reports. The last possible day to enroll a member is June 30th of 2016. I don't anticipate that we'll have that this year. I feel like the way things are going is that we're going to meet our capacity probably this fall with the program. So hopefully, it's kind of exciting that that's a possibility, and hopefully we'll see that happen. And then the program end is August 31st of 2016. We routinely apply for an extension, so that way your members can serve all the way through the end of October, but it's not guaranteed. But that is something that we do routinely, and I anticipate that we'll do that as well this year. So just know that if you're going to have your students serve beyond the end of August next year, that option is very likely to be available, but just know that. So I just wanted to throw this out there that my schedule is going to be a little crazy this fall. So I'm out of town. We'll be out of town Friday, September 4th. So hopefully we can, if you have paperwork coming in, make sure to kind of plan around that date, that I won't be here to process background checks and that sort of thing. And then also big news, mid to late October, my wife and I were having a baby, and so Emily is going to be taking over a lot of the ICAP tasks during that time. So as things kind of approach and actually happen, I'll let you know what happens and how long I'll be gone for and everything like that. So thank you all for well wishes and everything like that. So just a quick review. There's a full and detailed timeline that is available on the ICAP website. Pre and post surveys, that's the kind of evaluation survey, and I'll talk about this a little bit later. They can be disseminated at a different timeline if it makes more sense for your program, but I just set some kind of guideline dates. Preview, recruitment and enrollment process updates. And then big view, the timeline is based upon this program year's deadline in order to help me to submit reports to CNCS and ICVS. And we try to, I try to make our programs deadlines match as much as possible to the broader deadlines that I have with the commission and with AmeriCorps. So that kind of gives you a good amount of time to be able to get these things collected and turned in and that sort of thing. So up next is recruitment and enrollment. We're going to talk about expectations and really focus on member requirements, your requirements, host site requirements, things that you should look for. So for your members, I think the big things that you need to know is that citizenship, they do need to be a U.S. citizen or a U.S. national or a lawful permanent resident alien of the U.S. And they should have the documentation to support that, especially if they're in that lawful permanent resident status. They should have a card or something to support that, and they'll need to submit that to Iowa Campus Compact or a scanned copy of it. CNCS requires that, and they'll be flagged in the system. Background checks, obviously members need to be able to pass all background checks. And then they do need to be a college student at your institution. So, hopefully you're obviously recruiting from your own institution. Service site requirements, so where your members are actually serving, they have to be a 501c3 nonprofit or a government agency. And they also have to be in the state of Iowa. I think on this last one in the state of Iowa, there is some flexibility there if you're looking to have a long-term commitment, and it makes sense with the program with a service site. We can appeal to the Iowa Commission on Volunteer Services to work with organizations outside of the state of Iowa if it kind of makes sense with their program model. Service sites cannot be 501c3 organizations that engage in lobbying, or a for-profit organization, or once again outside of the state of Iowa. So. Just keep in mind as you're working with your local organizations what that might look like. And we typically don't have issues with this, but it's always a good refresher. So here's some requirements for you and your position and you as a host site. We expect you to be able to recruit at least 90% of your requested positions. And we do have some flexibility on the number of positions that you can request. We also expect you to retain 90% of those members. And then maintain copies of your members' records. And I think this is going to be a big one this year, and I'll talk more about the big change with that. Monitor service hours and member activities, and I'll be providing more support around timesheets this year. So, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then assist your members in the completion of all their enrollment paperwork, background check, and exit paperwork. Ensure your members and program are in compliance with AmeriCorps regulations. Maintain regular communications with your members, and obviously maintain regular communication with Iowa Campus Compact, myself, Emily. This is one of the big changes for this next program year, which is pretty exciting, is that you're not required to submit the original documentation. You can if you want to, but this opens up the opportunity for you to just submit to me scanned copies of all the paperwork that you have. So digital documents, we're only going to accept them in a PDF format. Says here to go to documentation guide. I didn't get a chance to put that up on the website, but really the big, oh, actually I do have that on the website. Let me show you what I mean here. So here's the program website, and if you go under Campus ICAP, and then down to paperwork and just click on paperwork here. I just put together this nifty little tool, which is this 2015-16 documentation guide, and it gives you a breakdown of all the various forms that we have associated with this program, who needs to sign it, what are the restrictions on that signature, when does it actually need to happen, and what do you need to send to me. The digital copies is really the requirement. If you want to send me the originals and I can digitize them, that works too, but just know that what we're asking for are the digital requirements, that way you don't have to send anything in the mail, and I think that's a big advancement for this program. And then also, when is it due, you can see right here, there are the specific due dates shown on there. So again, how you get to this is if you're looking at the main screen, just come down to Campus ICAP, click on this paperwork tab right here and then scroll all the way to the bottom. So now I need to go back to PowerPoint. Last thing I want to talk about in terms of requirement is just non-displacement. And this is really everyone's responsibility. And the key thing here is that we don't want members to displace volunteers or paid employees at these service sites. So, you know, if you're working with the service site and you're talking about having an ICAP member and they're saying, well, you know, I have someone who is paid to do that, but why don't I just shift these responsibilities around? Something like that isn't acceptable. And then other kind of common things you could think about are they might have a permanent volunteer position and they bring in the ICAP member and they remove that volunteer position. The idea here is that the AmeriCorps members aren't displacing volunteers or paid staff in the community. So just a quick reflection. The review at AmeriCorps includes minimum requirements for members and service sites that we just went over, and members cannot displace paid or unpaid staff efforts at a service site. What's coming up next is background checks. Big view is that Iowa Campus Compact's view on service site and member management. We really see those as the host site responsibility, and we're here to support you in your efforts to do those sorts of things. So if there's things that I can do to help you, please let me know. But we really see you as the kind of the first line of interaction with your community partners and with your members. So. Next is background checks, and I'm not going to talk a lot about policy with this one, but more just broadly. So these are the checks that we perform, the NSPOW, which is the sex offender check. Iowa Campus Compacts completes this with the members' government-issued identification, because I need to know their full legal name. And this one has to be completed prior to the start of service. The next check, and this is true for all members, is that all members also must receive the state of Iowa background check. And your students, your members complete the paperwork, you give that to me, I process it, and we kind of go from there. The FBI check, and this one is only required if a member has reoccurring access to vulnerable populations. Reoccurring in this sense means that it's an anticipated or predicted opportunity for that member to have access to vulnerable populations. And that can be digital, that can be face-to-face, and it's really working with and serving those individuals in whatever capacity they're at the server sites. The vulnerable populations, just a quick reminder, is anyone under the age of 18, over the age of 60, I believe, and then or they have a disability status. So. This process is where you work with your member to have them complete their fingerprint cards, and then you send those results to the send the completed fingerprint cards to the Department of Criminal Investigations. If you have questions about that, please let me know. And I can show you where the resources are on the ICAP website and what resources are available in your community. So that one does take a little bit of logistics on your end. The citizenship check is something that everyone has to complete. Thankfully, AmeriCorps completes that. And if someone is perhaps a lawful resident or something like that, they get flagged in the system, and then we just have to provide more documentation on our end. So, and if that does happen with one of your members, I'll follow up with you and what needs to happen. So this is the big policy, and we enacted this during the 2014-15 program year as a result of a program-wide audit of our background check, is that all background check documents must be received by Iowa Campus Compact no later than 3 business days prior to the member's first day of service. So if they start on September 1, I need to receive those documents by the 28th of August. And that gives me enough time to complete all the background checks. It also avoids us having to document accompaniment, which is really was a big issue and a big finding during the audit, is that we weren't doing that. And finally, it just initiates the enrollment process. So this is how your members are going to get enrolled into the system. moving forward is by completing these background checks. So when it comes to evaluating a member's background checks, and this is at all levels, I look for completion of all the forms and that they provided a government issued ID. That's something that is missed a lot, is that I do need copies of the government issued ID in order to process some of these checks. The next thing I look for is the applicant a sex offender? And then the last one is, has the member murdered someone? So these are kind of the big things that I need in order to successfully do everything on my end, and the questions that I need to answer. Thankfully, we haven't enrolled any sex offenders or any murderers in the history of this program, to my knowledge. So, good on us for that one. And then the next thing is that in the event a record does return that doesn't include one of the above, so they're not a sex offender or they haven't murdered someone, but typically these records are things like a DUI, a public intox, whatever that might be. I'm going to reach out to you to discuss the situation, and really the point of that discussion is for you to be able to understand their situation and answer the question, does the member's background affect their service in any way? And if it does, then there might be more training that's involved. They might need to be removed from a service site. It could be something where maybe you're just not comfortable enrolling this person into the program, and they might need to be removed from the program or not enrolled. So that's really a discussion, and that's where you chime in, because you know your community partners and what their needs are, and it's important that we just keep that an open discussion, and I can understand what I can do to support you. So just a quick recap of the process: the sex offender check, I complete that. The state of Iowa check, I complete it, but you do the paperwork with your members. The FBI background check, if it's necessary, you determine if the member has recurring access. The member completes the paperwork. The member, and you should support your members with these logistics, is they get their fingerprints taken. Iowa Campus Compact will reimburse anyone for any cost of fingerprinting, and there shouldn't be any. Well, there will be a cost. It's about $10 an individual if you go through your local police department, but you don't have to absorb that cost. We will refund you for that. And then the fingerprint card gets sent to DCI with a billing form. It's available on the ICAP website. And then I receive the background check and evaluate it. So, and then the citizenship check, as I mentioned, is completed by CNCS. So here's just a more in-depth version of what recurring access to vulnerable populations is. Again, just to reinforce, you and your community partners should make this determination. It's important that you're the ones that are evaluating that. And a quick review, the background checks are due 3 business days prior to the member's start date. The member's start date will be amended if I receive forms that aren't completed, or if I'm unable to complete the checks because of these reasons. You can email the forms directly to me. I don't need the originals. Coming up next is the member application, agreement, and position description. And then just a quick big view. Background checks must be completed by very specific deadlines, as I talked about, and it's important that we follow those deadlines. I think after the recent audit that AmeriCorps required of all programs, they're going to certainly be less lenient if our specific program gets audited and there's a finding with background checks. So this is a very serious thing that CNCS is taking very seriously. So we really need to keep on our ahead of this rather than fall behind. And I'm going to be doing routine audits, internal audits of our program files, and review these things much more seriously moving forward. So up next is the application process, and this is another big change to how we're able to do these things. As you may recall, I sent out an email a couple weeks ago that talked about the enrollment process, and the big thing I announced was that AmeriCorps is now requiring that we do the electronic enrollment through the My AmeriCorps website. And in order to successfully do this, your members, they must provide a correct and active email address, so something that that they're going to check regularly because they're going to be using that email address to access their My AmeriCorps account and their enrollment and their exit paperwork through that My AmeriCorps system. So the new requirement by CNCS, the reason why, or the process that we're going to go through is that I receive the member's background check. I complete all the necessary background checks, so the state of Iowa one and the sex offender check, and I approve them to serve in the program. Then I'm going to invite your members to complete a short little enrollment survey through the myamericorps.gov website. So they'll have to, if they don't have an account, they're going to have to create an account. And then after that, they complete. So basically, all the information that we had on the paper documents are going to be the same information that they enter in onto that myAmeriCorps survey that they complete. Then they complete that and submit that, and then I enroll the member and send a follow-up confirmation to the member as well as the supervisor. So we do have some backup processes because there are a couple of questions that come with this and potential situations that could slow down your members being able to get into the program. So if a member is physically unable for whatever reason to complete the online form, then you do need to be able to document why they're unable to complete the online form, and also complete and submit the paper AmeriCorps application to Iowa Campus Compact. And this is the criteria that CNCS has set for all programs. So this is also down at the member level, is that the member must experience technological limitations that make it impossible or extremely burdensome to complete their own enrollment and exit forms in the portal. Technological limitations would include a lack of internet access or an individual with low computer literacy skills that cannot be addressed through training or technical assistance. The other backup process is if your members are having issues, is that they can submit an application through the My AmeriCorps portal directly to Iowa Campus Compact. However, in this scenario, they do need to complete the full AmeriCorps application, which does include them completing 2 references, which can be kind of a hassle because it's all electronic and they need to track down people and that sort of thing. So I would encourage you to not use this process, and really to just encourage your members to check their email regularly, make that account, which is pretty simple, and then log in and complete that quick survey. So just a quick reflection here. Your members need to check their email for an invitation to complete an online application to the program. Iowa Campus Compact needs to, in order for me to actually successfully enroll someone into the program, I do need to see the member's agreement before the member can be enrolled. Up next, the agreement, position descriptions, and member duties in a little bit more detail in the big view. This is a big change for our program. However, it does allow us more flexibility to submit documents digitally. Prior to this, if we were doing paper documents, I would have to collect all the originals of those AmeriCorps applications, and this just kind of streamlined things a little bit more. So I know that this is a big change, so I'm just going to mute the line here and take a quick moment and see if anyone does have any questions. Otherwise, I'm just going to move on to the next topic. Nope, everyone's good? All right. So I'm going to mute and oh. Jess has a question. Just to clarify, will the pre-survey be sent out by me? Let me. So I unmuted you, Jess.
Sorry, Justin. I forget that I have audio on here. I was curious. The pre-survey, that's something that I would typically send out to our students at the beginning of their service term. Did I understand correctly that that's something that will be sent out via this new AmeriCorps portal?
Do you mean the the members survey that each individual members completes, or are you talking about the overall program evaluation?
No, the member survey.
Okay. Nope. That one will. I'll include that in an email.
Okay.
But you know, certainly you can encourage your members to complete that as well.
Okay.
And you know, that link will be available on the website, program website. So, but that won't come through the MyAmeriCorps system. So that survey is removed from that process.
Okay. Thanks, Justin.
Yep. All right. And like I said, if you do have questions, feel free to put them into the chat box, and I will keep an eye out for those. Let's see. Up next, talking about the agreement. And the things I want to talk about here are the deadlines that we do have for the agreement are that the member's service agreement must be signed on or before the member's first day of service. That's when it has to be signed, and then it has to be sent no later than 30 calendar days from the member's first day of service. So 30 days directly from that. Send it, of course, you know, you can send it via email. You can send me the originals. I don't need them, and I'm just going to digitize them on my end, completely up to you. I think the big thing here is that until I see that document, a member is not going to be officially enrolled into the program. They will receive that invitation to complete their MyAmeriCorps application, everything like that. But in order for them to be enrolled into that program, I need to see that agreement signed and dated correctly. So. Up next, position description. This has seen a significant amount of change, and I have been kind of lightly talking about this over the last couple of months, but I made these changes, one, to really kind of streamline and focus what it was that you gave to me over this last year. So you wrote those narratives for your position descriptions, and I went through all those and kind of identified, well, what are the key things that we have going on here, and distilled them down into these 4 member duties that I think really encompass what it is our program. It also adds a lot of focus to what it is that we do, and I think you and your members and your service sites will really appreciate having this, and I know certainly CNCS appreciates having us showing that we have more focus with our program, or at least documenting it in this way. So the 4 member duties are volunteer recruiter, and I think the big thing here is that these are positions that your members will sign up for, or you'll assign your members to do at each service site. So so wherever I'm serving in the community, I'm one of these things. The first one, volunteer recruiter, this is someone who actively recruits students or community members into volunteer position, but they generally don't provide additional support to volunteers, so they're not really managing, coordinating events, that sort of thing. They can do direct service as part of this activity. And I think from my perspective, this one is probably the lowest bar, and is a good opportunity for a lot of your students who are looking to support more programs, but they want to do some of this volunteer recruitment. The next one, volunteer manager. This is where the member actively recruits volunteers, but then they also manage volunteer activities. That could be coordinating events, that could be supervising or training volunteers. Next is capacity specialists, and they typically utilize knowledge from their academic background and apply those highly sought after skills to improve the capacity of a community partner. You can think of these as maybe students who are interested in doing research, students who are interested in providing communication support, developing new programs, new projects, new events, those sorts of things, and they do it in a very specialized way. And then finally, ICAP leader. This is an individual who can provide other students with the opportunity to serve as a leader. Last year, we limited this just to the 450-hour positions. This year, we are opening it up to 300 and 450-hour positions. And also, someone who does serve as an ICAP leader, they can't just solely do the leadership element. Certainly, they can dedicate a portion of their hours to this, but they have to do other aspects as well. So they have to be maybe serving in your office, serving in the community, doing one of these other things. So Next, I want to just show you what the position description form looks like, because that has seen significant changes. And I'm going to hop over to the program website and just show you where you can find all the paperwork for this year. So if you go to the home screen, come down to Campus ICAP, and under paperwork, you can click on the paperwork button here, or you can scroll down and you'll see enrollment packet. These go to the Word version, so you can edit them. So they're not PDFs, but they're Words, so that way you can edit them and add in your information much more easily. But I'm going to show you the PDF version, so that way I don't have to download anything. So just scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'll see download the ICAP enrollment packet for 2015-16. We'll give it a moment to pull up. And so this is what it looks like. So this is page 1 right here. These are just instructions for your members on how to successfully complete this entire packet. And you can kind of walk through that with your members as you're enrolling them. Next page is our frequently asked questions and things that I typically see. If you do have other questions you think are relevant, please let me know, and I can always add them to the FAQ. ICAP member checklist. This is just you should be familiar with this. I put this into the program last year, and just a good way to document where everyone is and everything. Obviously, up next is our acknowledgement form, and then all of the background check documents. Emergency contact form, and then just a quick reminder about the government issued ID. And then this is the position description form right here. And so the commission recently provided some requirements for the position description form. So there's a couple new items on here. The name is the member's name. Host site, this is you, your school. Supervisor, that's you, obviously. The address of your institution, those are things that we're required to have on here. And then agreement number, that's something that I use to just kind of track where we are, what the agreement number is for that individual. And then it's just a series of brief questions. So will the member be serving as an ICAP team leader? For most students, this is going to be no, but we want to know that and document that in case they log any hours towards that. Will the member have recurring access to vulnerable populations? Yes or no. You need to initial this just to show that you made that determination. Up next, we have the 3 possible service sites where your students can serve. Campus development. Typically, for most of you, what campus development means is serving in your office, serving in a student group, those sorts of things. I tried to kind of expand that this year, so that way students can do campus development if they serve at a campus development site, if they are serving directly with the community, or if they're with a community organization or not. So an example where they might be serving with a community organization is if they're serving in a student group that's supporting a wide variety of community partner sites, and they're doing a lot of different service. Maybe they're recruiting volunteers for a lot of different events with a lot of different organizations. That would be a good example of campus development host or service site. And then you just enter in maybe if there's a department name, program name, student group name, whatever that might be. And then just fill out these items right here. Estimated service hours is exactly that. We have to document this. AmeriCorps requires that we include this on the position description, so just kind of do the best that you can. The member duties, as I went through, volunteer coordinator, manager, and capacity building specialist. You do need to attach the capacity building specialist form, and I'll show you where that is here in just a moment, but you need to include that so that way we know exactly what it is that the member is doing at that site. This section over here, the ICAP evaluation survey, this is the pre-survey and post-survey of what your members are, where they're going to ask the site to complete a pre and post survey about evaluating kind of what the member is doing at that site. It's a very quick survey. I piloted it this summer, and we're rolling it out this next year, and it only takes about 5 minutes or so. And I'll cover that in detail further down. And then community service site information. This one is open. These two are opened up a little bit more broad. So obviously this does include nonprofits, government agencies, student organization groups, or campus departments. And just to reinforce, each member is able to have up to a maximum of 3 community service sites. One of those can be campus development, which would be maybe your office or something like that. So. And that's what that form looks like. It should be, it's significantly, I feel significantly easier than what it was in the past to go through. So I'm just going to go back here to paperwork, and I wanted to show you, let's put that in a new tab, and I want to show you the capacity building form, which is under where all the position descriptions are. So the stuff up above is from this last 14-15, but capacity specialist. So here you can see volunteer recruiter, volunteer manager, capacity specialist, and ICAP leader. And this might be a good place where you can bring your students or community partners and talk about what it is that ICAP can provide. This is the capacity specialist member duties. And this is the form right here. You can look at it here. You scroll down and you can download the file and then fill it out. And really just want to go through, follow the instructions, and check what it is that your member is going to be doing at that particular service site. And obviously we understand that these things might change over the course of a program year, or over the course where a member is serving there. And the idea here is, again, that these things are the floor, not necessarily the ceiling. But we do anticipate that member duties will kind of evolve over time as they're there, as project priorities are kind of identified. So just kind of bear that in mind as you are completing these things and submitting them. That's our expectation as that kind of works out. So now I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint slide. And this is just mentioning campus development versus what a service site is. And I already talked about that, so I'll just kind of move on to this next one. So review, a member can have up to 3 service sites. I anticipate that most of your members will be volunteer managers, just because from my perspective, it looks like a lot of students are doing the recruitment as well as the coordination of events or programs for those volunteers to serve in. You can use your office or a student group as a service site, and that's encouraged. Member duties are meant to be the floor, not the ceiling, so we do, see things as kind of changing. Even if someone is in a volunteer manager or maybe a volunteer recruiter position, we do kind of anticipate those things adjusting over time as project needs are identified. Up next are expectations during member term of service, and then finally, big view. The position description is meant to document where the member is serving and what types of service they are providing. So it's a really important step in this process. But so I wanted to just quickly unmute. I know there's a lot of changes in there, and see if anyone has any questions. Feel free to shout out if you have something that you're curious about. All right. I'm not hearing anything, which is good. So hopefully you're absorbing all the knowledge that I'm throwing out at you. I'm going to put everyone back on mute. And again, if you do have any questions, feel free to just drop them in the chat box. So when a member is in their term of service, these are some of the expectations that we have around how you should communicate with us on these issues and what you should do and those sorts of things. And as always, feel free to contact me if you have any questions about anything. But these are kind of common situations that you might experience. So if someone needs to exit early or they do an early exit, once you contact me, we say within 3 business days. I need to notify ICVS within 5 business days because the early exit process is really an application to ICVS make that. And they're very supportive in terms of if someone does need to do this. It's not a big workaround, but it is something that we do need to do, and in a timely manner. How do we need to do this? I prefer email because I have documentation, but over the phone does work. Who needs to do this? I prefer an email from your member, either to you or to myself. I understand that that's not always possible. Sometimes members do this when they come to you and they say, I don't want to do this anymore, and then they fill out the early exit documentation, and then you hand me over the packet, and that has a little section in there where they can document that as well. That works as well. I think it's really just having something in writing is the best form of documentation in this case. Up next, if the member is in any way violating the agreement, I need to be notified as soon as possible. I prefer that you do it over email, but oftentimes these things do occur over the phone. And who needs to do that? I prefer an email from you with just a light description of what happened and if there are any action steps. So this might be something like one of the key items in the agreement is if someone commits a crime while they're serving in the program, you discover it, you let me know via email that this did happen. What are the next action steps that are going to take, and then I document that and I put that in the member's file. So sometimes these things, you kind of keep record of these things going on, especially around timesheets. And I completely understand that you don't need to CC me on every single communication, especially around those sorts of common issues. But if we need to exit someone early, just sharing those with me to document that you were communicating with this person about this issue, and perhaps they weren't responding, or they were responding but they weren't making any sort of action or anything like that. So those sorts of things are important. And then finally, if there's a grievance, when does this need to happen? The members are the ones that typically have the grievances with the program. We need to know as soon as possible, although there isn't a specific grace period or a deadline when a grievance needs to be filed. It has to be. How does it need to happen? It has to be made in writing to the standards outlined in the agreement. And I just encourage you just to review that real quickly. It's nothing unsurprising, but it just kind of includes, what needs to be in that grievance, and make sure your members know about this if they do have issues with the program. And then who needs to submit this? The member needs to submit this, so you can't write this up and then submit it on your member's behalf. It has to be the member who's submitting this to Iowa Campus Compact. Obviously, you can serve as liaison and kind of steward things over, but this really is the member's issue with the program and not necessarily with you as an individual or something like that. It likely isn't going to be something like that. So. Prohibited activities. I'm not going to go through these through each bullet point, but just know, I always encourage you just to kind of briefly review these. It is a quick read, but just remember that your members are able to do these things, especially looking at point number 5 here, engage in religious instructions. We do have a lot of students who may like to lead a Bible study group or something like that. They can do that. They just can't count those hours towards their AmeriCorps term. So just keep those things in mind as you're going through these with your members. And especially coming up with voter registration drives, that's another big one. Just know they can do that outside of their AmeriCorps term. They can't do it as an AmeriCorps member. So a quick reflection, you and your members are the first level to ensure service sites are complying with AmeriCorps regulations, and I think especially with the prohibited activities, if the service site is asking the member to do something that is on that list, the member and you really need to be able to speak to why it's important that that they don't do these AmeriCorps regulations. I think the big thing, the reason why you can certainly use is that it is a critical part of the program. If we did have an audit and from ICVS or CNCS that found that members were doing prohibited activities, that could lead to the program or the member paying back either education award or program costs. The next one, communication deadlines. These are based, as I mentioned earlier, on CNCS requirements, things that I need to do to make sure that we are documenting and communicating everything to our funders and they're aware of the situations. Up next are amendments, things that you might need to do during the program year to just kind of continually document slight changes here and there. And then finally, big view. It is essential that host sites maintain line of communication with Iowa Campus Compact. This really helps to ensure that everything is documented appropriately. In case there is an audit on our program, or in case we just need to make sure all these things are documented, especially even if there's like a case of a grievance or something like that. We need to make sure that we have all these things written down somewhere so that we can review them in those situations. So up next are amendments, and there hasn't really been any changes to this. There's other than maybe some of the forms. So the position description amendment form, which looks a lot like the position description form that I just showed you. That's what you need to do if a member needs to add or remove a service site at your level. When do you use this? Perhaps if the service site isn't providing enough service hours, or maybe the service site isn't providing valuable service experiences to the member. These are pretty common reasons that I see. There certainly could be other things that you might identify. When do you need to complete this? I say as soon as possible, ideally within 3 business days of the change. We don't have a hard and fast policy around this because I know sometimes these things are negotiated over a long course of time. So, but it's important that those are documented because as a member completes their timesheets, if they're putting down service site names, I need to have that documentation just to support whatever the member is putting on those timesheets, and that's really why they're critical to your member success. How do you complete it? Well, you can just send the completed document to Iowa Campus Compact via email is great, and I haven't made this form available yet because I wanted to give it a quick review before I put it up on the website. I just didn't get a chance to do that before today's training, but it'll be up by the end of the day today, and I'll include a link to it in an email. Up next, extend or shorten a member's term of service. This is another common amendment. What form do you use the term amendment form? When do you use this? Perhaps if a member wants to exit earlier than anticipated with their full awards, so they've met all the program requirements, you agree, the member agrees that, hey, you know what, it's time for me to exit the program. I've done everything that you've asked. Let's sign this so that way we can show that we are shortening the member's term. The other possible time is if you do have a member who needs to extend their term to complete their service. I think I often see this with members who feel like they can complete their term of service to an academic year, but they actually need to extend that into the summer. That's pretty typical across this program. We're working with a college student population, and we need to work with their needs. When does this need to be completed? I need to be notified as soon as possible, ideally within 3 business days of the change, or preferably before that. How do you complete that? Again, just print it off, fill it out, and send me the a scan or the digital copy. And I'll show you where this is real quick on the website. And you can use this year as well. This is a real handy tool, and some of you are using it, and some of you just haven't had the opportunity or the necessary, haven't really needed to use it yet. So under paperwork, term amendment form, again, you can click on this paperwork link right here and see everything, and that'll take you to the term amendment form as well. This is what it looks like. Member name, campus host site, just fill this out, extend or shorten it. What's their existing end date? What's their amended end date? I haven't updated this one yet, but the new one won't have a program director signature. It'll just have the member signature and your signature. So I'll make sure to amend that before the end of today. But that's just what it is, and you just send me the scanned copy of that. All right. So next I wanted to talk about trainings, and most of you're all familiar with the training certification form. I wanted to show you what that looks like for this next year. I have changed it slightly. It is included in the member application, the enrollment packet. It's all the way at the bottom. I'll show it here. So this is something that I didn't mention. I don't have my PowerPoint slides, but I included a checklist of how to know when you have completed your term. This is just for your members. This really mirrors what's on the exit packet, but this is just kind of a quick checklist of things that they need to do before they can successfully complete the program. And also, probably most important is a little. Most important is that at the bottom here, we have this right here, which is use this. We have a place where they can put their Iowa Grants account, as well as their My AmeriCorps account user ID and password, as well as their AmeriCorps identification number. So this is, I think, what's going to be a great tool for your members and hopefully helpful to them. But back to the training form, as you can see, the required training section up here, this is similar to what we have had, but the thing that I did add was documentation for additional civic engagement training session. This is optional for your members to complete, but this is also how we're going to track your members' performance measure around civic engagement trainings and those sorts of things. So this is just, it really eases it. This way I can tally these things up and you don't have to think, well, what is the civic engagement? Like your members just can kind of keep track of this as it goes along. And they're already going to get at least one, which is the minimum requirement, and then if they do have other ones, that works as well. And you certainly can identify and kind of whatever you feel is your institution believes is a civic engagement training or session, you can use that for your needs. So, all right, I'm going to head back to the PowerPoint here. In terms of trainings and expectations, we expect that you provide opportunities for your members to complete all of their required trainings. There are obviously the trainings that are available up on the ICAP website, and we encourage you to use group meetings as opportunities for those AmeriCorps trainings. This is a great way to build certainly a nice group opportunity and get students involved in networking with each other, but then also it's a good opportunity for you and kind of an easy way for you to make sure that the trainings are completed. Finally, your ICAP members can develop and lead required AmeriCorps training topics or maybe other professional development things they might have interest in. So don't be shy and maybe asking them to kind of share some of their knowledge. I certainly do encourage that. The next item, and this is a little bit different from what we've talked about in the past, but professional development. Members are encouraged to complete professional development activities. You do have to be kind of aware of what those professional development activities are, so that way you know what they're logging on their timesheets. You don't have to submit any additional documentation, but you do have to the documentation is really in their timesheets and how that's recorded. So just a quick recap. Members can amend where they serve and for how long with your approval. The key part here is with your approval. Members who successfully exit the program must complete the required AmeriCorps trainings. All members must receive a program orientation. This does include members who re-enroll into the program. Obviously, it doesn't have to be to the same robustness, especially if they're doing it in the same program year, but the goal there is just to make sure that they have a refresher of everything. Some of the trainings can be waived at your discretion. So take a good look at that training form and see if someone is in their second or third year in the program, they probably don't need to do the timesheet training again. Up next is branding real quick. Big view training and professional development are an essential part to an AmeriCorps member's term of service, and it really is one of the things I feel that sets apart AmeriCorps programs from just typical volunteering opportunities. So I think the more you can invest in making sure your members are successful in this area, I think the more they're going to get out of the program. So talking about branding, AmeriCorps recently released some requirements for programs. Thankfully, we're already, courtesy of the commission and their standards, we're already well ahead in making sure that we are branded appropriately. The ICAP website does have some signs that are available and other things and logos and that sort of thing that you can take a look. I think the the big requirement here is that if you're not doing this already, you should do this now, is that you have some sort of AmeriCorps sign that says like AmeriCorps members are serving here, or just the AmeriCorps logo. You have that in your office. That is a requirement of our host sites as well as here in my office. I think it would be great if your service sites would do this as well, so that way they're aware that your members are serving there. It doesn't have to be anything big. You don't have to buy anything. You can just be printing off a sheet of paper with the logo on it, or with the ICAP logo, whatever kind of works locally for you. And with this, I wanted to issue a challenge to everyone to take a group photo with your ICAP members and send it either to Iowa Campus Compact, send it to me, or maybe share it on social media. I think this would be a great way to kick off the year, and that way you can kind of show who are all the students who are serving at your site. Make sure you include the AmeriCorps logo. So in the picture you see below here, these are our summer of service members from this past summer who are completing up their terms right now. I did not include the AmeriCorps logo, so don't do what I did, and please just put that on there. Have someone hold up a sheet of paper that says AmeriCorps on it. So up next, I'm going to talk about timesheets and expectations. There has been a little bit of changes in here, so this is something I'm going to be adding more support to the website too. I just haven't been able to do since my program orientation on Tuesday and Wednesday, but just know that this is kind of an evolving thing. But I'm going to go over all the basic requirements with you. So there are enrollment tutorials and the supervisor tutorial on the ICAP website. I am going to adjust those to the requirements that you're going to hear here in a little bit. Right now they're set for this past program year, but these things have changed. Expectations, the ones at the top, obviously, when they're submitted and approved, have stayed the same, so they need to be submitted by the 5th, approved by the 10th of each month. Members have to serve on their last day of service, so mark hours on their last day of service. They also have to serve at least 1 hour per month, and that can be service or that can be training. They cannot exceed any of the following: 14 hours a day, 60 hours in a week, 200 hours in a month, and 20% of their hours, a maximum of 20% of hours can be allocated towards training. A maximum of 10% of their hours can be allocated towards fundraising. This last one is one of the newer items, is that they have to enter their hours in increments of 1 hour, 45 minutes, a half hour, 15 minutes, rounded to the nearest 15-minute increment. And that is something that has been around for a while, but it just really hasn't been enforced. And so I'm hoping to do more of a kind of a scan for that, and just lightly enforcing that throughout this next program year. The categories, again, just as a refresher, there are 3 categories that your members can enter their service hours under. There's direct service, which is really everything but training or fundraising. There's training. Here it says summer ICAP orientation, but that should be your on-site orientation, whatever it might be. That can also be their orientation at their service site. And so hopefully they're getting one of those. Fundraising, this is typically direct fundraising in support of a specific program. Just general fundraising isn't allowed, so towards like an endowment or operation funds or something like that. Here are some common problems that I do see. Training hours are not recorded. Training hours are recorded but are actually direct service. So someone has a whole bunch of training hours, but they really need to put them under direct service. Maybe they record more hours than they're allowed. And this last one, the comments section has disappeared from the timesheets for 2015-16 and beyond, which is really a good thing, and also presents some challenges because with that, I had to come up with some new guidelines. ICVS is still requiring that we document in some way and have knowledge of some way how members are allocating their service hours. So really, what I'm asking you to do, and I certainly will keep an eye on this as well, is that members document what they were doing, how they were doing it in the comment section, but doing that, there's a kind of a bottom, larger comment section for each month of service. So here's a good example. In this month, I served, maybe 25 hours, and I worked at 2 different service sites. I worked at Iowa Campus Compact, and I did 3¼ hours there. My civic engagement office, 15 hours there, and then 3½ hours of training where I did program orientation. I also attended a leadership webinar, and then finally I did 4 hours of fundraising where I wrote a grant for Iowa Campus Compact. Again, this is kind of a new and evolving thing, and I haven't been able to update anything on the program website, but expect that in the new member and supervisor tutorials, that this is kind of how I hope we can transition to documenting these things this way, rather than how we have been in the past. So let's see, review. Review and improve correct timesheets prior to the 10th of each month. That's just a reminder of that deadline. Compare your timesheets to guidelines available on the ICAP website. I'm going to conduct monthly reviews of timesheets, just a couple of them, obviously not all of them, and provide your members and you with just regular feedback. That way we can, you can understand what are the regulations as we move throughout the year. Up next, just real quick, are performance measures, and then big views. Timesheets are becoming an increasingly important element of ICVS and CNCS compliance checks and audits. So as a result, my hope is that I'm going to put into place more checks and reviews of timesheets, so that way everyone is knowledgeable in standards and best practices. So expect more support from me, just to kind of help us show that we're making progress through some of these issues. So up next, performance measures. I'm going to make a good stab at this one and try to move forward through this pretty quickly. I wanted to talk about our logic model. First of all, this is the logic model that I developed last year. I might tweak this a little bit before I submit it with the grant, but generally you should just kind of be aware of what this is and maybe what some of the longer term goals are. The items that you see here in the red are things that we're asking you and your members to report directly to Iowa Campus Compact, and I'll go over those in just a bit here. The items that you kind of see in this purple color throughout, those are collected through the service site pre and post survey, and these items under the long term are really what I've found to be the long term goals of this project, which are that organizations develop a sustainable pipeline of community or student volunteers to meet their program needs. And ICAP members are helping to support that in some way. Then also organizations are able to provide more better services to their community, and I think those are kind of the hopeful long-term goals. We're not ever really measuring those directly in any way, but I think those are the directions that the things that we're supporting. So I wanted to mention that I am working on developing more resources on performance measures. Right now I have some definitions that are up on the ICAP website, and I want to show those to you real quick. So let me pull up So back here, again on the home page, you can come under reports, and here's performance measures. You can see there's definition and tools. I'm developing some trainings that you and your members can use, but you can look definitions. I'll just run through these real quick. So these are what we are using as definitions for each of the things, the specific things that we're going to be collecting. So what is a managed volunteer? These are volunteers who are trained, directed, coordinated, or supervised by an ICAP member. What's a recruited volunteer? These are volunteers who are enlisted or enrolled as a direct result of an intentional effort to do so by the ICAP member. Organization or service site, kind of use those intertwined between all the resources that we have, but these are sites receiving the services from ICAP members. Really, who they are is that they can't be for-profit entities or 501c4 organizations. Non-duplications, I'll go over that here just a little bit. And the capacity impact survey, that's the service site evaluation survey, and I'll cover that here in a moment as well. So, but just know that this is going to be a new resource that's going to be built up. I'll make trainings, some YouTube videos that talk about some of these things and the trainings that you're going to receive. And then I'm also hoping to put more tracking tools and things on here. So right now I have a volunteer recruitment tracking sheet if you need that. I anticipate that you don't need that, but I want to just make sure that anything that I can do to make available to you to help your work is made available on the ICAP website. So I really wanted to dive into this topic of non-duplication because I don't feel like Iowa Campus Compact has done a great job of defining this for our host sites. So I came up with this for summer ICAP, and I want to share this with you. And these are just some examples of ways you can think about what is non-duplication when you're counting volunteers. So in this example, we have one AmeriCorps member who is recruiting a volunteer who's doing 2 separate activities, but at one event. So in this example, this is just one volunteer who is recruiting to perform 2 volunteer duties. So you count that as one volunteer. In this next example, this is again one volunteer, but they're recruited by 2 different ICAP members to do 2 different activities at one event or for one program, whatever that might be. So that's just counting one volunteer. In this example, we're counting this as 2 volunteers, even though it is only one individual that's being recruited. But this individual is greeting event attendees at an event, and then they're also serving as a mentor in a program. So they're doing 2 very separate things for 2 separate programs or events. And so we're counting those as 2 volunteers. And then in this example, this is very similar. Except we have 2 separate ICAP members who are recruiting one individual to do 2 separate events at an event and then also at a program. So one ICAP member recruits this volunteer to greet event attendees. The other ICAP member recruits this volunteer to serve as a mentor. This is, in this case, this is 2 volunteers as well. And also, a volunteer can be counted as being recruited and as being managed. So we expect there to be duplication over that. CNCS expects there to be duplication over that. So just kind of know that if your members are really doing a lot of managing and they're also recruiting those volunteers, count them twice. These are our goals for this next year. Number of recruited volunteers, 2,040. Number of managed volunteers, 680. Number of hours served by volunteers, 33,000. Organizations receiving capacity support, 200. And organizations receiving volunteer managed services, 24. So these are the things that really measure the success of our program to AmeriCorps and directly to CNCS. There obviously are other things that we are collecting and measuring, and I'm going to show you what those are under the impact form that is available in your members' enrollment packet. So just underneath their training documentation is the performance measure report. And these are all the things that we're asking you to collect. And your members can use this. You don't have to use this form. You might have a system already in place, but this is available in the enrollment packet. And it's just kind of front-loading this information for your members. So obviously the number of community volunteers recruited and managed we went over. This next part is just estimating these demographic types. CNCS asks this, and really this is just kind of doing the best you can because you're not always going to know this information and have really definitive answers. The number of hours served by community volunteers, that obviously we want to know that. And these are 2 new items that we do want estimates, which are the % of recruited volunteers serving more than 1 hour or the % of recruited volunteers serving at more than 1 event. And then finally, the number of service projects completed by volunteers. These are things that with the service projects is something that has existed, but the other 2 are new. And then finally, these are just a series of questions about disaster relief. I don't anticipate any of our members to be doing disaster relief, so for most of these, this is going to be no, and then local disasters would be 0. But we're asked to collect this information if we do end up doing it. But under each member duty, there are specific performance measures, and this is just, you can kind of think of this as they're building on each other. So capacity specialists, they need to complete 1 service project and then also collect a pre-post survey. The volunteer recruiter builds on that. They do everything capacity specialist does, but then they also recruit 10 volunteers, a minimum of 10 volunteers, and those volunteers each serve at least 1 hour. The volunteer manager does all the things the capacity specialist and volunteer recruiter do, but they also manage at least 4 volunteers, and hopefully much more. Now, with that in mind, it's important to know that performance measures are not cumulative across positions. So if you have someone who's doing 3 volunteer recruiters, they don't have to recruit 30 volunteers. We're asking them as a requirement just to do 10. Certainly, it'd be great if they could do 30, and we understand that they might not be positioned in a way to do that. And I think the last one here is that all members are expected to record all of their performance measure data. So if you have a capacity specialist who is recruiting or managing volunteers, they should be recording that as well for the program. Where do you submit your reports? On the ICAP website. I'll just show everyone real quick what I mean by that. This hasn't changed from previous years. You can just come under here under the Reports tab, Final Impact Report or Midterm Impact Report, whichever one is relevant to the time that you're submitting it. So, and it's just a quick survey. Your members can fill it out on there if you want them to. You can fill it out for your entire host site. It's really kind of up to you on how you want to manage that side of it. I'm more than happy to support you in any way that you need. So I wanted to quickly talk about the pre-post survey, the evaluation of our service sites. What is this? Well, the pre-survey, that measures the capacity of your service sites to perform common activities that our AmeriCorps members provide. The post-survey is a measure of the impact that those ICAP members are providing. Who completes this survey? Well, all service sites that are listed on your member's position description, they should complete the survey. That's why that checklist is there. If a service site is receiving support from more than one member, then the service site only needs to complete one survey, so it's one per service site, not one per member. Members are responsible for collecting and submitting those responses to Iowa Campus Compact. There are instructions that are on the survey. And the supervisors, your job is really to help to coordinate that, to make sure, you know, if there are 4 members serving at one organization, only one of those members is asking the service site to complete that survey and submitting those to Iowa Campus Compact. Not all 4 are doing it. Those sorts of things we're asking you to do. Iowa Campus Compact, I'm responsible for the analysis and the dissemination of the results. I'm also going to help you kind of track where you are in terms of the survey completion of all these sites. And then when should we suggest the surveys be collected? A lot of this is really up to what you feel is best at your level, but I suggest that they're collected no later than November 1st for the pre-surveys. For the post-surveys, I suggest that they're collected in the members' last 30 days of service. And if you have members serving at a service site and it overlaps a program year, so you have members completing from 14-15 and they're serving in September, October, and then you also have members who are starting in September, October, really try to just get those in before August 31st. And hopefully by that point, those service sites can evaluate the impact that your members are having there. Where can you find the survey? Well, this is available on the ICAP website. And if you just come to the main page here, under Campus ICAP, Service Site Survey, submit your responses, download pre-survey, download post-survey. I'm not going to go into that in detail, but just know that that's where it is, and that's where your members can find it, to download it, and where you can find it. Kind of the results of the survey are a report that I put together. So this is kind of the carrot at the end of this. And I want to make sure I have enough time to go over some of these things here in a little bit. But this is what the report looks like as a first draft, and this is just dummy information, so it doesn't represent anything. But you can come in here and see what your organization feels their capacity is to perform. Some of these broad topics like volunteer management, training program development, fundraising, communications, and research, as compared to overall, which is all the service sites that are reporting. And then impact. In this scenario, Iowa Campus Compact only received any services from in the research area. They didn't receive any services in the other areas. And you can see that in this case, by our scales, they received just some impact. The following pages provide the detailed information for each question. And I'm not going to go through these. You can look at these yourself later on if you want to look at this at that level of detail. But you'll be able to receive these for each of your service sites that completes the survey. And hopefully you can use that to kind of make decisions about how you're supporting them. If maybe you identify maybe they need more volunteer recruitment support, or maybe they need more other areas, I think it's a good opportunity for you to just kind of think about that. So quick reflection, Iowa Campus Compact, I'm developing more of these performance measures training and tools for your members and for you as well, and those will be available on the website. The survey is an essential tool to collecting performance measures and evaluation data. And I can customize what that report at the end looks like, so I can just kind of focus it on your community and what that looks like. Up next is exiting the member, and finally, just big view, performance measures and the results of the survey are a direct reflect of the success of this grant. And I have to write like a report on these sorts of things, and these things are actively reported out to CNCS. So just kind of know that they are essential to the success of how this program operates and everything. So I know I'm getting very close to the end of the call here, but I have two topics to cover. One is exiting in term of service, and then also talking about the next grant. So I wanted to answer possibly any questions, and I'm going to continue going because I want to record this. So if you need to hop off, I completely understand. But before I move forward, if anyone has any questions about anything that I just covered, by all means, please let me know. Okay, well, I'm going to put everyone back on mute, and I completely understand, if you need to hop off, this will be made available on the ICAP website as a video, as well as all the slides and everything else. So don't feel bad if you need to hop off. I completely understand. So up next, I'm just going to talk about exiting members for the term of service. What our expectations are, again, is that you notify us within 3 business days of a member's intent to exit early. So if they need to leave the program for cause or compelling circumstance, that you communicate that. If a member just kind of goes, just has stopped serving, they're not communicating with you, if you think someone is in that boat, please contact me as soon as possible. In regards to timesheets, our expectations is that the member has completed and submitted timesheets through their end date or through their exit date. For folks who are exiting early, I understand this isn't always isn't always possible, and they probably may have even stopped serving and just weren't recording hours for a couple months, and that does happen, unfortunately. But just communicate that with me as well. And then finally, you need to go in and approve all of the timesheets. And I'm keeping an eye out for that as I'm exiting members as well. So the process, how this works is that since we are using the online system, I'm going to go into the My AmeriCorps system and open your members' exit application 45 days from their exit date. So if a member is going to be exiting earlier than anticipated, just let me know so that way I can open that application and they can fill that out and make sure that's completed and they're good to go for their for exiting the program. They have to complete this application online, and it has to be completed within 30 days from their last day of service. But with this process, members are going to be giving 2.5 months to be able to complete everything. So I think that's ample time for them to log on and to answer a couple questions and then hit submit. So we do obviously have the evaluations. I added a new program evaluation that the member completes. This one isn't required, but it is a good way for myself and for you to understand how things are going. The member evaluation and the supervisor evaluation, those are obviously required. And as it states here, if a member or supervisors fail to complete an evaluation, then the member or the program may be held responsible for repaying grant costs or the education award amount. And I think the key thing here is that if someone exits the program and neither you or they or the member complete the evaluation and then they re-enroll into our program or another program, CNCS views that member's exit as unsatisfactory. And as a result, they should be exited or removed from their next term of service, which is a pretty harsh consequence of what is a quick and easy sort of task just to complete this evaluation. So quickly, I'm going to just go through exiting early. The thing I really want to touch on is if you have someone who has who wants their full award, has completed all of their requirements, our suggested process is that you complete a term amendment form. Then you submit this form with the member's exit packet. This is just you kind of lining up all the paperwork so that way their end date aligns with what their timesheet says. And in case of an audit, it really just protects them from any sort of questions about why did they exit early and why wasn't it documented in this other way, and shouldn't they be exited in compelling circumstance? But they've met all their program requirements, so that's just kind of what that's helping to document. So the exiting paperwork is available on the website if I haven't mentioned that. Members who are re-enrolling, members typically exit earlier than anticipated. So our suggested process is that they, again, complete that term amendment form and submit that along with their exit packet, and then I receive that and process it. Once they re-enroll, they complete their new My AmeriCorps application, and they just need to sign just their agreement agenda and fill out a new position description form. So quick reflection on exiting. A member must complete his or her exit application no later than 30 days from exiting in order to successfully exit from the program. I think this is going to be the biggest challenge for both on the enrollment and exit side with this new system, is making sure that members do that step. You as a supervisor, you must complete that evaluation of the member. And then finally, exiting for cause is not necessarily a bad thing, although we prefer that members don't do it. But exiting with an unsatisfactory performance is very bad, and that's when someone just doesn't complete their exit packet. They don't, none of their evaluations come in, really no paperwork comes in. That is an essential part. If someone does exit unsatisfactory, then they can't serve in AmeriCorps ever in the future. So. Up next, just going to briefly talk about reports, but big view. Your relationship with your member is an important step in helping your member successfully exit, really keeping those lines of communication open, and understanding what their needs and maybe what the things that are going on in their life. So reports, I just want to briefly talk about these two things. There's the Google Drive report, and then MailChimp, which is a newsletter sort of system. The Google Drive, hopefully you should all have access to the Google Drive specific for your host site. If you don't, let me know. But in there is a spreadsheet that has the names of all your currently serving members. There's going to be one for the 15-16 program year that'll have the names of all your next members that are coming in for this next program year, and it's a place where I kind of keep you updated on where your members are with their timesheets. That way you don't have to go into Iowa grants, and I do update that weekly and try to keep on top of that as best as I can. The MailChimp system, this is really my communication of things directly with your members, with your students. So you can expect a lot of communication from me to your members to make sure that they're meeting all sorts of deadlines, to make sure that they're serving enough hours, maybe keeping them updated on professional development opportunities, just really general program requirements. And that's my hope is to do with that, is just to add more communication, and that's going to go to their email inbox. And here you can see the email address, which is iowacollegeamericorps@gmail.com. That's where they're going to come from through that newsletter program. Up next, I want to just briefly talk about the next grant, but then the big view is reports are designed to ensure that everyone is knowledgeable about program requirements, both you and your member. Also, they really help me, so that way I keep an eye on these things throughout the year. So. The next grant, I wanted to talk about this very briefly. Obviously, we haven't finalized anything, but I really anticipate that we're going to see some program expansion here the next year. We split the program up into what we call Campus ICAP, and then there's Community ICAP. Campus ICAP is where you serve as that host site, and you kind of subgrant your positions out to your community partner sites. This is really the traditional model, and it is our priority as an institution. The other model that I have is Community ICAP. and I want to allocate some members directly to that program, more so on the side of our summer program, because that's where I see the greatest need, but we're also dabbling a little bit during the academic year. But this is really I think from what I've seen from my end, is a good opportunity for us to identify community partners that you may have not known about, who maybe want to partner with you at this level, and also to support schools who maybe just need a little bit more support over the maybe over the summer, over the academic year. They're not able to meet all the administrative requirements of the program. So just kind of generally know, this is the direction that we're headed and the reasons why they're there. The next thing that we're going to do is I'm putting together some host site performance standards. And why do we need to do this? My hope is to increase understanding and accountability between all ICAP host sites and our commitment to the AmeriCorps regulations. So as the program grows, I think we need to respond and make sure that everyone's being held accountable to these standards. And really, it's just good program management on our side of things to make sure that we all understand what it is that we're committed to in making sure that this grant is acting successfully. How are they going to be developed and rolled out? Well, I'm developing them right now and hopefully going to be finalizing them over this program year. Obviously, I'm going to include you in on that conversation as host site supervisors. You're our key stakeholders. You're our primary constituents with this program. So you're going to have a lot of opportunities to look at these things and provide feedback. This is just an example here. I don't know if this is going to be what the goal is, but you can look at example of retention. Maybe a goal with retention is 90%. I think that's going to be the goal, because that's our requirement, is that you retain 90% of your members. But there's going to be a minimum standard of 25%. And we're hoping that everyone can meet that. And if they're not able to, we really want to be able to find ways to support you to make sure that you can get up to that 90% or as close to there as possible. When will these take effect? Well, these are going to take effect with the next grant. So the 2016-17 program year is when they'll start, and they'll stay in effect throughout that. And if a host site falls behind in some of these standards, really our goal here is to find ways to support you, to make sure that you can have a quality program that is meaningful to your community partners and to your students that are participating in this program. So that's really our goal, and I'm working on what these things might look like, and certainly I want your input on these sorts of things. So please, by all means, as these things roll out, share your opinions on what you think would work and what wouldn't work. So I'm really looking for a lot of feedback and leadership from you as host site supervisors on these topics. The other thing that is going to be new to the new grant is the evaluation plan. Why do we need an evaluation plan? Well, AmeriCorps is requiring that all competitive grants, which we are, to submit an evaluation plan with their next grant. This plan must be enacted over the course of the next 3-year grant, so that's between 2016 and 19. How is it going to be developed? Well, the logic model that you saw earlier, I'm going to use that, as well as the service site pre and post surveys. Using those tools that I developed over the summer, and then also over this, tweaking maybe a little bit in this current program year, 15-16. Those are really going to serve as the foundation for this evaluation, and that's where we're going to get all of our responses, so that way we can actually evaluate the program and write a solid report that we can publish for AmeriCorps' requirements. What will the evaluation measure? As I talked about a little bit, the evaluation is really focused on process more than outcomes. We're measuring the impact of ICAP members, what they have on your service sites as reported by their service sites. So in many ways, it's kind of a satisfaction survey. What do your service sites think about the work that your members are doing there? And we're also trying to assess if returning service sites experience any changes in capacity during their time as an ICAP service site. So if you have an organization that has ICAP members across those 3 years, maybe they start reporting that their capacity is increasing in some of those areas. And it is self-reported information, but it is valuable. We're kind of looking and seeing, helping you to understand what type of impact you are making on those service sites in a little bit more meaningful of a way. So just kind of know that those things are coming down the pipeline. how are the results of the survey going to be used? Well, you know, I developed that report that you saw. That's kind of the tip of the iceberg. I'm also writing a much more detailed report about our program. Certainly, I'm willing to share results with you, share reports with you, whatever it is that you feel that you need. And really, I think the big thing here is that this report that I'm putting together is a critical piece to the AmeriCorps grant process, and I really need your help to be able to collect these results, because without those results, I can't write a report that really I feel does justice for this program. So again, what can you do to help ensure your service sites complete the pre and post survey? Very simple step. The survey, each one takes about 5 to 10 minutes. CNCS is requiring us to document if and how our program is successful beyond just collecting performance measures, and this survey really does that. And I try to make it as streamlined and as easy as possible. So I think it's gonna add a wealth of information to this program, wealth of support for us to be able to describe what it is that we do in a little bit better way. So quick reflection, ICAP is growing. And our performance standards that I talked about earlier are meant to ensure that all host sites, community and campus, are meeting essential AmeriCorps requirements. Up next is just my contact information, but the big view is that ICAP in 2016-19 will be very similar to what you're seeing this year. I really don't anticipate any significant changes for a long time. I think we're at a great place. We have a lot of great structure, and we can really use those things and leverage them to talk about what our program is and really focus more on the outcomes of this program and talking about the great things on that end of everything. So, all right, we're done. I'm going to unmute it because it looks like Karen and Maggie are still on the line, and just see if anybody has any last minute questions or comments.
Justin, this is Maggie. It looks great. I have to head out, but I really appreciate all the information on where you're going with the next grant cycle. Thanks much.
Not a problem. Thanks for staying, Maggie. Appreciate it.
Yep, you bet.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop recording now. And